I don't know if we're supposed to do something fancier than that. So, YouTube sent us this clapperboard a little while back. And I don't know if they sent it for you, Olive, or for me. But anyway, they sent it, and we promptly totally forgot about it, which is not very cool of us. But yeah, it's this cool little clapperboard. So you can say action. I guess you're probably supposed to use it to show like all your bloopers and stuff, and every time you start and restop, I guess. So I don't know really how much we're going to use it because we pretty much just do one cut and we include all the mistakes and the bloopers. So, but I mean it's pretty cool. I'm going to put it right here for a minute, and then maybe I don't know. Maybe now that we have this, maybe we can start doing more professional videos and like cutting out all the mistakes that we make. Anyway, I'm going to drop it if I put it there. Oh, okay, there we go. That works. All right. So, thanks for joining us, everybody, at Book Blather. If you're new here, I'm Dave. This is Olive, and we mostly talk about books. So today we wanted to talk to you about some of our recent reads. We completed a few more books lately, and a little assortment of some sci-fi and fantasy to tell you about. Some old, some newer. So we will jump right into it as usual. So the first book that we read is Rocannon's World by Ursula K. Le Guin. So this is a volume that has a few books in it. And so this was published in 1966. But Rocannon's World it's part of this loosely connected group of books that Le Guin did that is often referred to as the Hainish cycle. So we are reading this series as part of an event that Gareth at Book Songs and Other Magic is running, where we are reading one book each month from the Hainish cycle. There's 7 books total, if I remember that correctly. And the first one is Rocannon's World. And so that was published in 1966, but the first, I should mention that it's, when I say series, not really, that's a term that Le Guin rejected really, because they're not really a series. They're all set. They're not connected. They're just all set in the same universe. So this is a universe where it's based on the notion that humanity did not originate on Earth. It originated on a planet called Hain, which seeded the galaxy, different worlds, and then kind of interstellar travel stopped for a long time. So they kind of lost touch with each other, these different cultures and worlds. So anyway, so Rocannon's World is the first one in that series, published in 1966, but there was a story published 2 years before that called The Dowry of Angyar that first appeared in Amazing Stories in 1964. That story served as the prologue for Rocannon's World 2 years later, when that book was published in 1966. That story was subsequently republished as a story in an anthology of Le Guin's works in 1975 that was called The Winds of the... I knew I was going to forget. What was it called? The Wind's 12 Quarters. And so when it was published in there, the title was changed from The Dowry of Angyar to Semley's Necklace. Because that's what it was about. It was about Semley's necklace, which was to serve as the dowry for her marriage. She was among the Angyar people. So basically, the original prologue to the story, to the book, which I thought was by far the best part, was that told the story of this. So on Rocannon's World, there's a number of different races. So there's what they we're told we're gonna have to use it. Ready? Cut. Action. All right, so let's start that over. So Rocannon's World is the main character. It's called Rocannon's World because the main character is Rokanen. And Rokanen is he's an ethnologist that comes from what's called the League of Worlds, which is, obviously a bunch of worlds in the galaxy that are in this like sort of federation. And they are reaching out to other, they make contact and recruit these other worlds to basically support them in this war that they're fighting. And the people on Rokanan's world, they don't really fight in the war, but they use them for resources, to help support them, and then they'll protect them, but they're supposed to help support them in the world. It's not clear exactly how they tax them to get this extra support, but in any event, and so Rokanan is an ethnologist that studies the races on this, or the species that are on this planet. So this planet is an unusual planet because it has multiple what they call high intelligent life forms that they're studying. And usually, I guess it's only one, which is what you would expect. But in this on this world, there's a few, and those different species they're all highly intelligent at the level of humans, but they're much more primitive in terms of technological advancement. They're more like sort of like Bronze Age level, I guess. They like fight with swords and things like that. So it's a sci-fi that almost kind of has like a fantasy element piece to it. They live in castles and or huts if they're one of the lower races, or they fight with swords, and they travel on these winged steeds, which are these flying creatures. They sound like a little bit like griffins, and so that's the world that we're in. And one of these races is the Angyar. They're like a little more stately and regal, and they're the tallest of them. And the first story, the Semley's necklace story, is that's which serves as the prologue in this book. That story was about Semley, who she marries and moves into this palace. But she feels bad because they don't have a lot of money, and so she didn't have any dowry to bring to the marriage. So she feels bad about that. So she goes in search of an old family heirloom, a necklace that is worth a lot of money, and so that she can give that to her husband as a dowry. So she goes on this trip, and goes and encounters some of the other. And specifically goes and meets with one of the other species that lives on this world, the clay folk, and because she's trying to track down this necklace, and that had been lost like generations ago. And so I won't spoil it, but then some cool sci-fi things happen, and of course this, obtaining this necklace costs a little more than she had anticipated. So that story was really good. Then the rest of the book, what was a novel after that, then it kind of jumps forward in time. So you see some ancestors of Semley's. Rokanan is still around. Rokanan met Semley, and Rokanan now meets the ancestors, and so Rokanan is on the planet as an ethnologist doing his surveys and his studying. And what happens is this League of Worlds, I'm not going to spoil it, but this League of Worlds there's a rebel planet, this planet Faraday, and the people there kind of engage in this sort of rebellion. And so they actually come and destroy Rokanan's ship and all of his colleagues on there, so that he is the last one left without any ship and without any of his comrades. And so he's trapped there. And so he has to enlist. They have, at that time, like the closest planet is like 8 light years away. So like a normal, even just message would take that long to get there. But they have this device called an ansible, which I think has been later used in other, for other science fiction. But this ansible allows instant communication across, regardless of the distance. So he wants to go and get that ansible so that he can communicate with the League of Worlds and let them know that this attack happened and warn them, and so that they can come. Part of it is he wants to learn, warn the League of Worlds about this rebel faction that's conducting this attack there, and protect the people of the planet, Rokanan's world. I think the actual name was Fomalhaut 2 or something like that. But they made it Rokanan because it's Rokanan's there and Rokanan is protecting it. And so he needs to go get this Ansible. So he enlists the help of a couple of these different people, people from a couple of the different species, and they go accompany him to try to get this Ansible so that he can send his message. And so it's most of the rest of the novel is that story, and it's about them traveling. And so he meets a number of different species and races within those species. So some of which he had known about and some of which he didn't, because they hadn't actually explored some of this planet. And a lot of them over time, even within a species, people got separated because they're on different continents and they didn't have jet planes back then. So people, some of these different portions of the species drifted apart and evolved a little differently and had very different cultures. And so he meets different people, some, like I said, different beings, some of which he knew about, some of which he didn't, and explores all this terrain as they basically travel like to a different part of the world. And a lot of stuff happens, and it's a really it's an interesting adventure, and he discovers a lot of things, both good and bad. And so we liked it, but we didn't love it. And so I've heard some of the other books get better afterwards, but this one was a lot of, so the prose, Le Guin's prose was top notch, but it was at times it was just like a little too top notch. It didn't read, it read kind of slowly, and a lot of it, I felt like a lot of it, I got bogged down on a lot of descriptions of the geography. There was a lot of, they were flying over these areas and then walking different areas. There's just a lot of discussion of countrysides and mountain passes and waterways, and just there was a lot of discussion of the geography. And so at times I felt like a little bogged down in that. I felt like it went a little slowly, but it is what it is. But it was mostly good. I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad I'm doing that. I'm excited to move on to the next one, which is Planet of Exile. And so that's also in this compendium. This is Worlds of Exile and Illusion, if you're interested. Has the first 3 books in it. So, yeah, I think that was pretty much it that we had to say about that book. It was okay, but we didn't totally love it. Okay, next we read Tarzan and the Golden Lion. So, if you've been around for a while, we've been working through the Tarzan series by Edgar Rice Burroughs. So, Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote 24 Tarzan novels, and we have been working through these with our friend Dia over at Novel Idea. We buddy read all of them together. So every few months we read another one. So it was originally published, like a lot of these old pulps, it was originally published serially in, Argosy All-Star Weekly in 1922. And then they in 1923, they put it in book form. So this Tarzan and the Golden Lion is book 9. So I think we're going to make a run for the 24 because we've got 9 done already. So unless it gets totally, repetitive and boring, I think we'll keep going. So, and this was fun. This was fun, as they all are. So the first Tarzan book, in my view, right, was a great piece of literature. All the books after that, they're just kind of pulpy adventures. But they're always fun. I've yet to read a Tarzan book that wasn't a good time. So what this one is about is, it's called Tarzan and the Golden Lion because Tarzan and Jane and their son Korak are coming back from their adventure, presumably their adventures in the last book. He encounters this lion, this young lion cub, and he adopts this lion cub and basically trains it. And so this lion basically becomes his pet. Now, the name is a little bit deceiving because the lion actually doesn't play a big part in this story. So it has like 2 important events, like incredibly coincidental events where it's, useful that the lion is there, but the lion doesn't really play much of a big part in the story. Um, so I'm not sure why I title it that. Maybe because you can't. Maybe you want to title it Tarzan and Another Lost City or something, So, um, but so what this one is about is Tarzan. In this one, Tarzan is going back to the city of Opar. So this is a recurring location in the Tarzan books now. This is the third time, I think, possibly the fourth time, but I think the third time so far in these first 9 books, where Tarzan has visited the city of Opar. And it's a cool place, and you can see why Tarzan wants to keep going there, because it is a lost city that has, it's very peculiar. It's a city where it's a very religious city, that's led by a high priestess, where they do a lot of like ritual sacrifices, and it has a lot of gold. And the evolution of this city is very isolated, and so the women have been kind of steered towards, evolving into very attractive, very capable individuals, whereas the men have kind of been purposely bred into sort of just, kind of not very bright, grunts, that are really there for their physical ability. And so it's run by this priestess, and there's a lot of gold there. There's a lot of treasure. And so in this book, Tarzan is going back. There's Olive's sister, Riley. You want to come in, Riley? Cut! I should have done that before we did that. Okay. Action! All right, so Tarzan has to go back to Opa. So he has an estate, in Africa, and they need to replenish some of the fortune. So Tarzan's going back to Opar, and when he goes back to Opar, there's the high priestess there, and there's these like political shenanigans going. So they leave for a bit. They don't actually spend a lot of time in Opar, and but the sort of nemesis or whatever in this book is there's this group of characters that's led by this woman Flora, and Flora was a servant at Tarzan's estate. She overheard all this talk about the city of Opar and its gold, so she decides to put together in secret her own crew that's going to go and try to get some of this gold. And she recruits, one of the people she recruits is this guy Esteban, who is a Tarzan lookalike, basically. So he makes for a good villain, right? So the two of them, and then they have like 4 other guys that go with them. So there's this group of Westerners that are going to go and try to steal this gold from Opar. And she's got this lookalike Tarzan, so that other people there, like that the people in the city of Opar, and like the Waziri, which is a native tribe in that area, that they will think that it's Tarzan, and not be turned off that it's actually just thieves there coming to steal the gold. And so he makes for a good villain, because they end up meeting different people, and there's just like tons of backstabbing going on, and Esteban is able to pull off a lot of this stuff effectively. There's the Waziri, and then there's these other tribes there that's helping them, and then there's backstabbing within the Westerns, and so he keeps coming up with all these different stories, and he's able to fool people a lot because he looks like Tarzan. In the meantime, you have Tarzan and the High Priestess that are going to this yet another like little lost city that they find, that has yet a very different type of way that it's governed based on who is governing it. And then it's like a place with diamonds, so yeah, so it was fun. This was probably, if I'm being honest, probably among the lowest among my favorites of the Tarzan books. But like I said, I've enjoyed them all, including this one. This is probably just one of my lesser favorites. But it's pretty good. It was pretty good. And it was a good time, as they all are. Okay, and the last one we read here was Krampus, the Yule Lord by Gerald Brom. So this was published in 2012, and we read this. We started reading it at the holidays, so we were reading it for Christmas because we were reading all Christmas themed stuff. We ended up reading a lot of stuff for Christmas, so we didn't finish this one, but it was good, so we wanted to finish it. So we went ahead and finished it, even though it was no longer the holiday season. And this book was not, we enjoyed this. We liked this. This was not quite what we thought it was going to be. we thought that this was going to be really just about the myth of Krampus, and it was to some extent, but it was also so there's a lot of Krampus and a bit of Santa Claus, but there's also some modern day, just normal modern day characters. So it's set in West Virginia, like in the boonies, and there's this guy. Our main character is actually this guy Jesse, and he is a young, down on his luck guy. I think he lives like in a trailer, and he is estranged from his wife and young daughter. They have basically left him, and they are now living with his nemesis, which is the not so nice sheriff of the town. And so they've left, like Jesse's like still loves her and he adores his daughter, but they left him because he basically can't get his act together and he can't provide for them. And so they moved in with this sheriff who's a bit older, but he has a big house and he's the sheriff of the town, but he is a major dirtbag. He's a bad guy, and he's connected with some really bad guys that like run things in that area. And so Jesse's like in just a really bad spot, and right in the beginning he kind of witnesses this sort of like event in sort of like little battle thing involving Santa's sleigh up in the sky, and that's his introduction to getting Santa's magical sack gets dropped, and he gets possession of that for a while, and that leads to his involvement with Krampus. And so there's this story of Jesse and the people in his life, but then there's also this whole story of this war going on basically between Krampus and Santa Claus, and it's kind of like a reimagining of those characters and those myths, because it basically connects it to the Norse mythology, and their origins kind of being there, and the conflict between this Norse mythology and more of like modern day Christian connections with Christmas and Santa Claus and all that. And so a lot of that that sort of conflict is a big source of what's going on with this war that Krampus and Santa Claus are waging basically around Jesse. And so Jesse gets totally wrapped up in camp. Santa has his creatures, I guess, that help him. We'll leave it at that. And Krampus has his own posse they call them Belsnickles, and his own posse of people. We'll call them people, and Jesse gets all wrapped into this, and it's he gets unwillingly dragged along with all this, and so he's got this craziness going on in his life. He's got this craziness going on with this mythological this war between these mythological characters, and it was really good. It wasn't short, but it moved. It really moved. You never got bored for 1 second. There was always stuff happening, always action-packed, a lot of tense moments, some rough things happening, so it was really, really good. It was really, really good. And you're kind of going on this journey of Krampus trying to bring back the old school holiday of Yule, and people remembering him, Krampus, as basically a hero of that holiday, and so it was really good. I mean, it's a great story for the holiday season, but it's a great story anytime if you like this sort of fantasy, folklore, horror sort of thing. It was really good. We had a good time with this. So so those are our last couple of reads. We Rocannon's World, Tarzan and the Golden Lion, and Krampus the Yule Lord. So let us know if you've read any of these and what you thought about them, or if you think you might read them. Always like to hear from you guys. Let us know what you've been reading, if you've had anything that you've enjoyed lately that you would recommend for us. So anything else? Did you have anything else to add on this, or no? Was that it? Nothing else? So we had our surprise guest, Riley, today. We use our clapperboard, and I felt like we were kind of all over the place today. But anyway, hope that was all right. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate everybody watching. We will see you again very soon. We have another book haul to do. And we got to do it quick because we have another book fair coming up this weekend that we're going to go to. Just a small one, so we'll try to behave ourselves. But so we got to show you about these other books that we already got before we go there. So thanks so much for watching, as always, guys. We'll see you again very soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.